I'm going to be doing an unboxing, but I'm also going to be doing a comparison between the 272R. This is the Pro Series Magnum transmission from Traxxas. I just got this. This is from a hobby shop in New Jersey. So if you have relatives or people that live over there, they have them. I don't know if hobby shops in Nevada, Washington, California, anybody on the West Coast, I don't know if they, who has them, not sure yet, but New Jersey definitely has them. Now the price can vary. Usually they are advertised for $149.99. This sticker, to be honest, was actually covered, and then after I bought it, took the label off, and then I saw that price. So as of this video, I have no idea if you can find it for that. If you can, let me know, put it in the comments. I probably didn't smile at the right person, but here we go. Let's see. All right, so you will have your instructions. Your instructions are going to be pretty straightforward, very simple, as all of Traxxas instructions, so go ahead and read them at your own time. Right now I shall continue unboxing this, and like I said, after I show you what comes in the box, I'm going to do a comparison between the Proline Pro Series and the 272 Traxxas transmission. All right, so we get this component here. I'm going to assume this is for the wheelie bar that Traxxas has to offer. Oh, this is great. So you do get multiple spurs here, which I'm guessing it's probably a 90, 83, and a 76, which tend to be the sizes that Traxxas uses. Oh, there's a few little screws, don't lose those. Interesting. Let's see, so there's 3 of them. 76, that's the one I'm going to be using. 86, well, unless I put it on my slash, I may use the 83 or the 86. So there's no 90. Yeah, 76, 83, and 86. And here is the transmission. Oh, this is nice. Many times things are tie strapped and then you have to cut a bunch of straps off. Not this one, just twist the wires. But here is the transmission. So transmission is very, very nice. On one of my previous videos before I got this, I talked about this extra material. So this material is very nice. Now I will be comparing this to the other 2 transmissions so you can see the difference. But for now, this is what comes in the box. So this would just be removed, and I don't know if there's a 90 gear in there or not, but we're gonna find out once I disassemble this transmission with the others. This is a stock transmission. I went ahead and put a motor on here. It happens to be a VXL. I didn't really do that on purpose, but I went ahead and just set these screws in. It's not tight, just want it to move. If I grab a 38 tooth pinion gear, this will fit and mesh very well. Actually, it meshes well all the way to the outside. So if you just move this all the way to the outside, tighten it there, the mesh is going to be, I'm going to say almost perfect, just in case somebody has a transmission with a little more play. So this is great. Now, that's a 38 pinion with a 76 spur. That's a very good ratio. It is possible to mill out part of the plastic and fit a 40. I did not want to do that because I'm trying to compare these transmissions without any modifications, but you could fit a 40 if you wanted to. There is still room here for the motor to slide if one were to mill out part of the plastic. But again, I did not want to. 38 fits perfectly here. So this is one of the advantages. If you saw my other video where I was talking about my drag car, this is a transmission that used to be in that drag car. This is a 56 spur. The largest pinion I can fit is only a 19. So it's very easy to see the advantage here. I mean, this is about a third of the difference, so about 3 turns to 1. So 3 to 1. versus over here, right, 38 to 76, this is almost a 2-to-1. So you can get much higher speeds, assuming you have a motor that has the power. I'm not sure if this one has the power, but I will be testing it later on just to see how the Villenium works. I finally got some other gears. But this is an advantage to the stock transmission, one of the differences. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this motor off, put it over here. As I said, I've already installed a 19 on this one before, so I will not be doing it again in this video, but you can watch my other videos and see 19 tooth pinion is the largest you can fit on the Proline Pro Series 32P. So now we're going to swap everything and see. And this is one of the beautiful things about the Traxxas Pro Series transmission. The options that one has, the adjustability. So on this one, as I said, the largest pinion that I was able to fit was a 38 tooth, and that fit perfectly. If I move the motor, so here's the motor, if I move it all the way to the outside, as it is there, it's the same spur, right? We have that 76. This is a 41 tooth. It fits in there beautifully. All I would have to do is just tighten my screws, and I have a 41 tooth pinion. So that's one of the advantages. You can do a 39, 40, 41 depending on your motor, but you can't fit a 41 without modifications. Could you do a 41 on this one? Yes, of course. As I mentioned, you could mill some of this out to allow the motor to come back a little and fit it. So that is something you could do, but just out of the box, this one here can fit the, can give you the larger ratio. Or larger ratio, I guess I should say, just a smaller difference between the two. As opposed to this one, again, 19 is the largest you can fit with a 56. I have not been able to find something smaller. Maybe the Team Associated fits, I'm not sure. As I mentioned in another video, if you do the TRX4, will not fit. The slipper system will not fit, it's too small. Now, all of these have dust covers. This is the Proline. Proline, I do like the fact that it's a clear dust cover, and mainly because I can see through and examine the gears, look at the clutch. I can actually just see the clutch. You know, this opens up. The others also have a little port that you can open up, such as this one, but this one has that little piece there so it stays on. Not that you need it, but this one would come off, and then one has to make sure that it's fastened properly. Now, this is the new transmission right in here. The screws are different. It does come with 2 screws. This one appears a little shorter than this one down here, but it's not a big deal, really. And they screw on opposite ends, which I actually like because I can fit a driver over here without removing the tire. Now, this is the difference between the original. So this is the old one. This is the 272 cover. This is the 272R. So there is a difference because the motors fit differently on them. They sit differently on the two, but similar plug, right? Similar design. And I'm saying similar because of the concept, although this one and this one, the motors do mount differently. So they are different. They're not interchangeable. That's something to keep in mind. Now, the transmissions themselves, I'm going to start with the original. So if we look at the material here, and we're looking at this little area here, which propagates over here, we can see that. And this is the Proline. So Proline, now it's a little difficult to see because of where I have it. The Proline transmission does have more material. So if I were to set one on top of the other, maybe, no, it's not really as obvious. Really the main difference is if I give you this view right there. This one's squared off and comes down as an angle, so it actually extends a little farther. This one stops right there and these are rounded. So the Proline has material all the way to here. This is where it slopes down from this point down to there. So there is more material on the Proline here on this section of the arms. Now, I'll be honest, I've never broken a gearbox here in this section. I've always broken them here. So I don't really think it matters that much, but it may to some individuals. Go ahead and comment below if you've ever cracked a case right here, right in the middle of the arms. As I mentioned, I have never. All of the cases I've ever cracked have always been here, right there. But let's go ahead and grab now the Pro Series. So both of these are Traxxas, so 272, 272R. There is a large difference in design. And one of the things that I do like about this a lot is here the slope. See the material? It's all the way up here, all the way there, and then just slopes down, nice smooth curve. And you know, one can see that's very, very obvious. Let me get the correct side right in there. So now if we do a little side view, side comparison, one can see the difference. Even if the extra material doesn't matter, because let's just say you've never broken a transmission here either, only here, it just looks better, and to clean it, it's easier to clean this, something like this, than these little sharp little angles. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's more of, I guess, an aesthetic thing. So that's one of the differences. So let me just do the Proline. This is the Proline. This is the Traxxas. You can see the difference there between the two. So I do prefer this design. Now, the next bit is the following. So this is how the motor mounts. That point is fixed and it just arcs here. That's how it moves. Versus this one over here has two holes, and then the motor moves at an angle. So it's actually going down. Well, this one I guess is arcing, so it also goes down. This one moves at an arc. This one, the whole motor can go down, or, I mean, one can actually do that or that. So there's a little more adjustment on this one, I guess. One could say, if you want the motor just slightly lower, if that may, if I probably would not notice the difference in the change in center of mass by moving the motor this way versus this way. But that is a possibility. Now, this one has an aluminum plate. These aluminum plates are great. These are fabulous. So this is on the Proline. They really do take heat away from the motor. This one here in particular, I've used this type of transmission in, well, track cars. And I've used it also on a slash, and it works great on the slash. The motor runs very, very cool. I usually run it with a 16 tooth pinion. I probably could go to 19 on the slash because that motor gets to maybe 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So not very hot, really. Now, if we look at the back, there you can see some differences. And that's one of the nice things about this one. The motor face will sit flush here, which means there's more contact, aluminum, metal to metal contact, so it'll transfer more heat. Versus this one, well, it's plastic, it'll be an insulator. I guess that's one of the issues. Now, if we look at the other Traxxas transmission, this is one of the large differences. This one, the motor stays at the same height. So if we measure from the ground here, the motor never changes heights. It just scoots forward and back. This will affect your balance though, because if you think about, this is your axle, you're shifting the weight farther back or farther forward. That will change your weight balance, but it's not affecting the height. So with this one, you're just changing the weight distribution front back, not up and down. So I do like this transmission for that reason. It's one less variable to play with, whereas these two, although it may be insignificant to most of us, it does change your weight bias, not just front to back, but up and down, because your motor with a larger pinion will actually go slightly down. Smaller pinion will go slightly up. So that's something else to consider between them. Now, looking at the Proline and the Traxxas, these aluminum plates are about the same thickness. They seem to be the same thickness, but you can see the difference between the two, so they are not interchangeable. After this, I'm going to go ahead and take a gear off, and I'm going to show you the difference in the slipper systems. And these are the slipper systems that we have here. So the Traxxas, if you are familiar with them, they use these 3 pucks right in here. And these create friction with that little metal disc down there. And it's the exact same system for the other Traxxas transmission, so the newer one. So if I disassemble one, I'll disassemble both. I'm kidding, but then I can show you how these work. So they do have a spring, so it's just a nut that sits directly on the spring, which sits on this ball bearing. And this is the system right in here. And these little pads can be replaced, and these are actually very fragile. If you start running major power, major speed, they will break. The ones I prefer are the carbon fiber by Hot Racing. And this is the little disc. So it's just this little disc, this goes like that, and then this just sits on top, and this is what creates the friction. Whereas the Proline uses these discs. It has another one on the other side. It has this little friction surface right here that is glued. It's stuck onto the gear. So if you ever have to replace these, you have to clean this out carefully and stick the other ones on. So these are a little more difficult to replace than the ones on the Traxxas. Traxxas, they just pop out, pop the new ones back in. But these are it. So this is what this looks like, and this is fascinating. I've never opened this transmission, but I just realized this has been rubbing on that screw. Let's see if that is an issue. That screw came a little loose, but even then it does not seat perfectly flush. So that is an interesting find. Something to consider as well. That would not be an issue on these transmissions. So notice what that looks like. All right, so now I will take the transmissions apart. This one here, this is the plate for the Proline. This is held on by 3 screws, whereas the one off the Traxxas, you have 4 screws that actually hold it on. So there's 1 extra screw holding this one, and this one's very, very close to the motor, really reinforces that little section. This one here is just plastic construction, so there's no plate. But now that I've removed a good portion of the components, one thing that I want you to notice is this. This is solid, right? No gaps. If I flip the transmission, it's just a piece of tape. Now this tape here, this is so one can remove the tape and then grease the gears or check the gears. On the Proline, there's a bit of a gap. There's a little bit of plastic. It's thin, so it's not as thick as the Traxxas one from the bottom view, which is probably why it has this extra material. So is this extra material really that much better? I don't know. I really do not. Now, there is an advantage to the Proline, and that's once we open it, you will see what the advantage is of the Proline over this one. But as far as the case of the gearbox, not really. There isn't really much of an advantage. And this is where the difference comes with the new Traxxas transmission. Notice those gaps. There's those holes there. And the reason why is I already removed these 4 screws, but once those 4 screws are removed, one can just press down and the differential comes out. So one can service the differential, replace the fluid, whatever it is, without opening up the entire case. So one just has to remove this from the vehicle, and then those 4 screws differential comes out. And to place it back in, same motion, and then this just goes right in there. And then the 4 screws go back in, and that's it. Versus this one, to re-grease the gears or service anything, one has to break everything up, just take everything apart. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and take these apart, so I'll be removing this little pin. This is the pin where the slipper attaches, and it's being stubborn. Let me go ahead and remove that. And this one has the same, as the slipper system is the same. Now, before I actually break them up, there's a huge difference too between them. And that's in the rear piece that goes back here that attaches. This is the regular 272. Many people are familiar with this one. It's very flexible. It can take a lot of impacts. This is the new one. There's a lot more material. It's far more robust. I'm actually looking forward to putting this transmission in my Slash eventually. First, I'm going to try it on the drag car. But the Proline, yeah, this thing's broken. I mean, this transmission is currently on my Slash, and it broke. That piece broke. It goes like this. What ended up happening is it took an impact here. Instead of flexing, it just cracked and broke. So this broke. It's not really made for impacts, really. It's just made to hold a wheelie bar. Now we'll go ahead and open this up. So to open this up, just be careful. Some of the gears will go one way, some of the gears will go another. But these are the internals. So the internals, there's the idler gear right in here. Just be careful not to lose that shim there. But this is a differential. And the differential I was experimenting, so this differential I was experimenting with 1 million fluid to see if it works. It actually runs very, very nice. But I can see that some of it leaked out. So that's something to note. So some of that fluid, even though it's that thick, will still leak out. The gears inside of the differential are straight gears, so they look just like this, perfectly straight. I'm not going to open this. I've opened it in a different video, but there are 4 gears in here. So if you look at those little dark spots, that's where the pins are for the gears. The opposing ones, 2 of them are farther down, 2 of them are farther up, but the important thing is that they're straight cut. So that's something to keep in mind. And this will just go right in here. One thing I do not like about the stock transmission is that little pin there. That little roll pin will many times snap. It'll just break and snap right off, which is why this transmission I don't think is a very good transmission for drag car builds. And that's the reason why I'd chosen the Proline, because at that time, that was the best choice. So I'll go ahead and leave this here. I will remove this. I'll leave the bearing in there. We'll remove this for now, and there's a reason why. I shall move over to the Proline. Here is the Proline transmission. So if I go ahead and take this one out, there's the transmission right in here. So I open up the gearbox. The differential, this is supposed to be a serviceable and tunable differential on this transmission. I will open this one up. And here's the idler gear, but what I'm actually interested in is the lay shaft. The lay shaft and the gear are one piece. This is a much, much stronger design than the Traxxas version, because that little roll pin, sorry. So we'll go ahead and leave this here. Now I will go ahead and open the new Traxxas transmission, as I covered in grease now, since my finger's all greasy. So this is 1/2. I can go ahead and remove this really. There's the cover. Here's the differential. This is also servable and tunable. And this is what I love about this transmission, just like the Proline. See the lay shaft and the gear? There's no roll pin. So this is the Traxxas, this is the 272. This is the Proline. But the other thing too, the shaft, there is a difference between them. We have these 2 holes here, and this is for that pin for the slipper. That's the reason why it has that, but they're still there's no roll pin, which is far better. Now, one thing that I want to show you is you can purchase this piece. It's about $8 or $9 as of the time of this video. And it will actually replace this one right over here. So this shaft, this lace shaft, will fit inside of a 272. So one does not need to buy a whole transmission. One can simply purchase, if I can line everything up, probably, I'm missing something. What am I doing wrong? That looks good. Well, you can see how it fits perfectly in there. Let's see, nothing seems to be impinging. Everything's fine. Should close right up. It's actually a differential. I don't think the bearing is lined up. Let me just try to resolve this problem. Did I put in the differential on backwards? That's always a possibility. Let me see. Oh, certainly did. That was the issue. Let's go ahead and flip this. Man, nobody caught that? I'm kidding. Here, let's see. All right. Now this goes here. Right in there. This will seat perfectly. And there we go. So this will close right up. Right up. So that's something that one could purchase instead of buying a whole other transmission, paying over $100 for a new transmission. One can simply purchase this little item there, and this will fit. Now the differentials, I am not sure if they are interchangeable, but let me go ahead and try it out. There's a bearing here that I need to remove. Now the bearings are larger, which is something I do like. If I can remove this bearing, there's one. I remove the other one as well. If we compare the differentials just side by side, they appear to be, see, the difference, the problem here will probably be the bearings. And by probably, I mean it will be the bearings. Yes, so the differentials will not work. And let me just hold this way. See, that does not protrude far enough. Well, let's flip it. Maybe it's on backwards. Let's say it's on backwards. Hopefully it is. Because then we could just buy the differential. This will not go in farther. Nope, because of this. So the bearings would have to be replaced, possibly mill out the plastic case. So it's too bad on the differential. So now we're gonna go ahead and grab this. This goes over here. Now I'm going to compare the differentials, just the external view on these two right here. So again, this is the Traxxas 272R. This is the Proline. They are different. The Traxxas one may have more volume, and I'm basing that based on this section here compared to this section here. There may be more volume. The gear is also wider, so there's more contact here with the Traxxas one. For drag racing, that's very important. And I'm going to line these up and then get it closer to the camera. Hopefully you can see. So there's, here, one moment. There we go. So there is a difference. There's quite a difference, at least 2 millimeters. Millimeter 50 maybe. There's about a millimeter 50 difference. And I'm going to go ahead and open the differentials, so let's see what they look like inside. Now, I have opened the differentials, this differential before. Well, not this one in particular, but a Proline differential. So I do know what they look like inside, but I'm going to go ahead and open it anyway. The stock Traxxas differential gears, as I said, those are just straight gears, so it's 4 straight gears. Oh, that's interesting. Never opened it before, but that kind of slipped on the head. Might be a quality control issue with Proline, maybe. Or it could just be the one screw out of 20 billion transmissions. But the nice thing about serviceable differentials like these, or tunable I should say, is, well, you can tune them. So they can be tuned for different surfaces, say dirt, clay, carpet. You just replace the fluid, whatever fluid goes in there, or you can just run grease. These come with grease on the Proline. They just have grease, but that is it. So here you get those spider gears. So these are the I guess more common on higher end RCs. You get these spider gears. There's a little cross. The nice thing is that is metal. So you get those two little metal pieces that click together like Lincoln logs. If you've never played with Lincoln logs when you were a kid, I did, you can just Google them. So there's a notch that's cut out and they sit like this. So one of them has a cutout, for example, here, and then the other one has the opposite, so they just lock in place. But one can clean up all that grease and then put some fluid in there. There's no O-ring here. It just sits flush on top. Or at least not one that I saw on the other one either. Nope, just verifying the information, actually just confirming my memory more than anything. And here is the other one. So this is the Traxxas one. Traxxas one, similar setup in that it has 4 screws, which is actually very common. I've not seen a 10 scale differential for short course. I mean, even 8 scale, because 10 scale short course is very similar to 8 scale everything else. With 3 screws, for example. I've always seen 4. If you do know of a differential that has a different screw count, let me know. Just put in the comments. Share the model, what it is, something that's, you know, that 10 or 8 scale. But I doubt it. All right, here we go. Oh, nope. Still need to back these out just a bit. All right. There we go. So this one here actually has a gasket. It has the same concept with the spider gears. So you see those conical gears right in there. And this is the first time I opened one of these. But this here, this feels like rubber. I'm just barely tapping it to get a feel. Some vehicles, for example, if you've ever, yeah, that is definitely rubber. If you've dealt with techno vehicles, for example, this will actually be paper. This one has an actual rubber seal. Good job, Traxxas. Let's see, I'm curious if this is an actual, oh, it is 2 pieces. All right, so this one is just like the Proline. So let me show you what I meant with Lincoln logs since I took this out. Can't get there. See that little cutout right in there? So both of them have that cutout, and that's where they seat. But that's the difference between the transmissions too. So just to summarize, the stock transmission has a roll pin on the lathe shaft. That's the Achilles heel of this transmission. This one does not, this one does not. So these have a better lathe shaft system. The Traxxas 272R and the Proline 32P Pro Series. This one and this one have the same slipper systems. I do like this slipper system because it engages a larger surface area, but if you replace the pads on these with the hot racing long carbon fiber, those are fabulous pads. This one over here, I did notice that damage to one of the friction plates. The screw backed out just a little. Maybe it was that way before, I never noticed it. Well, I mean, I used this was installed brand new. The way the motor sits, this one here, to adjust the motor, it swings. So depending on the pinion that is used, it will change the weight bias front, back, but also up and down. So your center mass will change. Is it significant? Probably not. At least I wouldn't notice it. Somebody that's very, very good at racing or tuning, for example, an expert would notice the difference. I just don't think the average person will notice. The Proline, it moves at an angle, so it will always affect front, rear, up, down. So center of mass, the height of mass will always be affected. On the Traxxas 272R, it just moves front and back, so you're only changing the weight bias front and back by replacing the spur gear, but not up and down. I said spur gear, I meant pinion gear. The pinion gear, the largest pinion gear that fits on the Proline is a 19 tooth with a 56 spur. Both of these transmissions can use a 76 spur. This one can install perfectly a 38 tooth pinion. A larger pinion is possible when milling out the case so that the motor can extend farther back. This one, without any modifications, can fit a 41 tooth pinion gear. And these are some of the things to consider when considering one of these transmissions, along with the type of differential. This one here will leak. That was 1 million oil by Kyosho, which I actually filled a week or two ago, and some of it leaked out. This one has an actual rubber seal. This is the Traxxas 272R. This one, I don't see a seal, unless it's, here, let me just pick at it. I don't remember sealing the other one. Nope, there's no seal. If you've taken these apart and you found a seal, maybe I'm not seeing it, let me know. Write it in the comments below, because I don't see a seal on here either. I don't feel anything. So that is something to consider. Out of these transmissions, for a Traxxas Slash, that was bad. All right, nothing fell on the ground. I forgot there were gears. For a Traxxas Slash, I would go with either one of these two if you were planning on replacing that transmission. These transmissions are still pretty good. There's people that still look for these, so you could sell them for $40, $50. I've seen them for that price. Used, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. I don't know the full retail value on those, because a lot of people would just replace them. These transmissions, the Proline new, these sell for about $125 as of this video. You can find these new for about $100. This over here right now, this was the least expensive one that I found. It was $150, but I had to get this from New Jersey, even though the box said $110. And that was covered up. Probably because the demand is so high, there's a markup. So go figure. But this is definitely by far the better transmission. This is what I would recommend. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, please put them in the comments. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.
What? Oh, my hair! My tongue! My rod!